All right. Okay. So, hi. My name's Ash. This is going to be a guide on how to get basic cosmetic mods, weapon mod, uh, how to get started and get a mod finished from beginning to end. Um, there's a lot of information out there already by some amazing people uh, to go ahead and get into that. But a lot of it's spread apart. A lot of it's hard to understand if you don't already come from a modding background or for somebody who works in and is experienced with like texturing or modeling or whatever. So primarily what we're going to be focusing on is port jobs. So getting things from one game or one existing resource into XCOM 2 and getting it in as either a functional weapon or a or as a cosmetic alternative for whenever you go into the armory and you go into a soldier, you can customize their armor, getting that added as an option. So, all right. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is we're going to go ahead and this is assuming that you have installed the XCOM 2 War of the Chosen SDK. This will be specifically for War of the Chosen. Uh, most of this should be fine to use in the vanilla SDK too, but I'm not going to promise that everything's going to work. I work primarily in the War of the Chosen. The expansion's really good. I recommend getting it if you don't already. All right, so if you haven't done XCOM 2, if you haven't gotten started with ModBuddy yet, I'm just going to go over a few basics real quick. Let me go ahead and get the SDK open. Steam Apps, Common. Okay, so within the directory for your SDK, you're going to find this binaries folder and this redistributable folder. And you need to install these two exe files. The ModBuddy will not start unless you've installed the Visual Studio shell and the redistributable for Unreal Engine 3. Once you've got those two installed, you can launch the SDK, but at this point you have to go to Tools, Options. I think it's Tools, Options. And this is all in the Getting Started guide in the documentation folder in your install directory. So you see there's documentation right here. You see the XCOM 2 War the Chosen SDK Quick Start. Read that. And I'd honestly recommend reading through, or at least skimming through all of these. I cannot tell you how many times I've had a problem and have searched everywhere expecting to be some sort of complicated solution, and then just found out that there's some super simple information in the documentation that I completely missed. They're not long to read through. Go ahead and read through them. Okay, so and yeah, so you load up here, and I believe you go to XCOM 2 right here in the settings, and you choose your install path and your user path to, or the install path to your XCOM 2 War the Chosen installation location. And once you've done that, you can jump into the SDK and start actually doing some stuff. So, we're going to go ahead and get started. For this tutorial, I'm going to be making a port of the Master Sword and Link from Hyrule Warriors and importing them as options for XCOM 2. I'll also be doing the Hylian shield for the ballistic shields mod, but I'm probably not going to do a tutorial for that. It's going to follow the same structure as doing the weapon mod. You'll just have to look in the ballistic shields directory for what code you need to use. So we're going to go ahead and hit new mod here. Now, with the vanilla SDK, you can hit this default mod, and that'll get you started. It'll give you all the folders and stuff that you need to get started. But if you choose default mod in the War of the Chosen SDK, it'll crash the SDK. In fact, choosing any of these, except for empty mod, will crash the SDK. So we're going to do empty mod. We're going to do, we're going to call it, and this is my personal naming scheme. I just like to go WTC _ and I'm going to do Zelda mod because, or I'm going to do Zelda pack because that's how I like to name my things. And I'm going to hit OK. And here it's enter title. I just enter the same thing, War the Chosen _ Zelda pack, because you can change the title on your Steam Workshop page, so that's what I do. And I don't bother changing the description because, again, I have it on my... I edit the description on the Steam Workshop page. So we're going to go ahead and hit finish. That's going to take a little bit to generate. I'm going to try to do some light editing when there's really long pauses. But don't expect too much editing in these guides. Okay, so when it starts up, we're just going to get a README. I'm just going to erase that. I don't ever put anything in my READMEs. It would be the smart thing to do. But barely anyone ever goes through a README. Anything that somebody should need to know, you should put it on your Steam Workshop description long before you put it in your README. Because if you put in your README, by the time that people found out that something, your mod requires this or is incompatible with this, they've already downloaded it. That's not ideal. Put it in the description. Don't worry too much about the README. Okay, so for that, there's a couple of folders we need to generate here. And not every mod's going to need all of these folders, but this one is. So we're going to get a config folder. This is where you're going to put your configuration files, your .inis. We're going to go another folder. This is going to be content. Content folder, that's where your UPK files are going to go. That's going to contain all the visual assets that your mod uses. So we definitely need that since we're adding weapon and armor. Then we need a localization folder. Not within the content folder, actually. New folder. Localization. Localization folder is going to contain localization files. They're just text files, but what they're going to do is they're going to handle all the text that the player, that your mod users are actually going to see. So you can write out code for, let's say modded assault rifle _ conventional or whatever, but they're not going to see anything. Like it's not going to say what your actual weapon or armor or whatever option is unless it's in this localization file. So we need a folder for those files. And then last folder we're going to need is we're going to need a source folder, which XCOM 2 just uses SRC. Within that source folder, we're going to add a new folder, and this will be the same thing as our mod name. So WTC Zelda pack. Within that will be a classes folder. And then within that will be our assorted files and such. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead with a new item. And this is the core of every mod. Is going to be an Unreal script. And we want X2 downloadable content _ and then our mod name. So WTC _ Zelda pack. And there's our Unreal script. And then this is what's going to handle, if we want to put, if we need to add certain things to the armory when we launch a new game or whatever. This file is what's going to handle all of that. Now, I have a template for this. I will put a link to the template that we're going to be using for the weapons, as I'm starting with the weapon, in the description. Let me just see if I can find this template. Oh yes, I keep it with my other mods. So let me documents, Viraxis mod buddy, XCOM War of the Chosen template. Okay. So let me src mod name here. And this is what I want in this. I'm gonna add something else later. When we start working on the armor, there's a way that you can add icons for your selections, and I'm gonna put that in. I'm gonna add that to this file later. But for right now, what this is gonna do is this is gonna handle our mod being recognized, and any items that we add, since we're going to start with making this Master Sword, it's going to check to see if they're in the armory already, and if they aren't, and we match the requirements for them, it should add them to our inventory. It's not foolproof. Even with the code that I'm using that Musashi made, it won't always automatically give you your weapons. If somebody already has beam weapons, so we're adding a sword. If somebody already has a beam sword, and they add this, and it doesn't add your mod, and it doesn't add the beam version of whatever sword that you're making, in our case the Master Sword, then it's not gonna get added. You might have to use a console command or something to add it in. Otherwise, they're just gonna have to start a new game, or they're gonna have to load a save before they got beam weapons and do the upgrade again. It's annoying. That's just the way that XCOM 2's mods work sometimes. Sometimes they just don't. As with any mod, you should start a new game, ideally, to have as little issues as possible. While we're in here, we're going to change a couple of things. Since this is a template, it's got some default language that I don't need to use. We can see it says up here XCOM 2 X2 downloadable content info _ and we want to change that to WTC _ Zelda pack. And I'm just going to scroll down here real quick. Over here is where we'll actually add the weapon so that it can be recognized. It'll also be up here. We'll have to change those once we get everything else built. But other than that, we're good. Let's see. In our config, we're going to need a couple of files real quick. These are going to be .ini files. So we're going to, nope, not existing item. Actually, I am going to go ahead and copy and paste these into our area. So let's see here. I want Zelda pack. We're going to put that in the config. And I'm also going to put my template localization file in there as well. Okay. And this would probably be the more ideal way of doing it, is you copy these over to the folders that you just made, you add existing item, go to config, I'll shift click to select all four of those, and there they are. And then I'll do the same for the localization folder, add existing item. We're going to go localization, there's my xcomgame.int, and there we go. For xcomeditor.ini, add mod package, and this one's again just going to be WTC _ Zelda pack. And I think 3 out of 4 of these we'll be doing that with. Yeah. TC. All of these just simply add on to existing existing files, just to extend those files so that it can recognize our mod and ensure that it's run the same as others. And this file, this xcom.ui file, this is essentially just making sure that, like, if we make a sword and it's identical to the vanilla sword, that we only see, that we don't see anything that we wouldn't see on the vanilla sword. Instead of having it list all the stats individually, we don't need to know that, because we just know that it's identical to a vanilla sword, and so on. I'm not sure if that's entirely clear, but basically it just means that our UI is less cluttered. Okay, so next up, that's actually where I'm going to end this. No, it's not actually. Because we're going to go into the editor and I'm going to show you how to get your UPK set up, and then we'll end it. Because I want this video to be a general getting your mod's file structure set up and everything. So that, you know, if you're only wanting to do a weapon mod or you're only wanting to do an armor mod, you don't have to watch information, the same information twice. If you're wanting to do both, and you don't have to watch information that you're not going to be needing if you're only doing one. So I'm babbling while we wait for the editor to launch, which I will probably make an edit here to cut away the time, because it takes quite a long time. Alright, looks like the editor has finally seen fit to launch. We'll see how much longer it actually... Okay, there we go. Alright, and all we're going to do here is we're just going to make a new UPK file. It's real easy. We're just going to go, since I'm going to be starting with the sword, I'm going to be copying over the sword. Doesn't actually matter what you start with. All I'm going to do to start us off is I'm going to take this SM's conventional sword file, it's a skeletal mesh for the sword. I'm going to create a copy. And under package, instead of conventional sword, I'm going to make a new package, and this will be made automatically when we try to save this. So I'm just going to do Zelda pack. I'm actually going to go, for this one, I'm going to go weapons. I'm going to Zelda weapons. And this will be SM Master Sword. Now, I might change this later, but for now, I'm liking this. Okay. So, Zelda weapons, meshes, SM Master Sword. I like that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and hit OK. Sorry, I was just suddenly thinking, hey, you know, since we're doing the Master Sword and we've got multiple tiers, why don't I add some of the Goddess Swords from Skyward Sword into there? Because that would be super rad, but I don't have meshes for a middle tier. So, probably not going to do that. Anyway, you can see that there's an asterisk next to our newly created package down here. That just means it hasn't been saved. We're going to hit save, and it's going to ask us where we want to save this package. By default, ModBuddy saves your mod projects in Documents for Access ModBuddy. XCOM War of the Chosen. There's our Zelda pack. Go in farther. We go into our content folder and we save it here. Alright, so that's been saved. So we go back into a ModBuddy. We add an existing item. Go up. Go to content, Zelda weapons. That's it. In terms of all of the files that our mod needs to do something to exist. These are the bare bones basics of what we need. So this is where I'm going to end the video. Next up is going to be a guide on adding a new weapon. In this case, as I mentioned, the Master Sword. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to go ahead and edit this and start uploading it to YouTube before I start on the next part. Thanks for watching.